Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 12 2016 NFL predictions. Well, before I start this video, I would like to wish everyone out there that watches my video and all across the world that celebrate it, I would like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Around this time of year, it's always great to be around the ones that you love and your family and your friends. And to me, there are 4 F's to Thanksgiving: family, food, fun, and my favorite, football. So, with those are the 4 F's to Thanksgiving: family, food, fun, and football. Hopefully everybody enjoys their Thanksgiving, has a great time with their family, enjoys a good meal, and watches all the great football games. And for only the second time since they've been playing on Thanksgiving, all 3 games, or all the games, have teams that are either 500 or better. And they're all very interesting to me, so I'm excited for this slate of Thanksgiving games. But before I get started with my picks, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Alright, so for my picks this week so far, my records against the spread. This week I have gone 8-4-1, which is 66%. And straight up I am 9-4. So for back-to-back weeks, the 14-game weeks, I can hit that 9-10 win mark for straight up and against the spread. So I'm very happy about that. And now overall for the year, I am 72-76-7 against the spread, and straight up I am 93-65-2. So as the year's gone on, I'm starting to get hotter with my picks and more accurate with my picks. So the 2 goals that I wanted to reach, which was getting to about 500 against the spread and straight up about 60%, they've gotten significantly better over the last couple weeks. So hopefully I can continue that trend going forward this week. With a full 16-game schedule this week, first time in about, I believe, 8 weeks that we've had a full 16-game schedule. But there is one more set of byes that we have to go through next week when the Cleveland Browns and Tennessee Titans take their byes in Week 13. Alright, so time for my picks. So this Thursday on Thanksgiving, when the 6-4 Minnesota Vikings go to the 6-4 Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I like the Detroit Lions minus 2.5 and Detroit straight up. Then the next game, when the 6-3-1 Washington Redskins go to the 9-1 Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are 6.5-point favorites in this game. I like Dallas minus 6.5 and Dallas straight up. And then in a nightcap, when you have 2 5-5 teams, when the Pittsburgh Steelers go to the Indianapolis Colts, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-point favorites in this game. Or I'm sorry, 2.5-point favorites in this game. I like Pittsburgh minus 2.5 and Pittsburgh straight up. And then on Sunday, when the 5-6 Tennessee Titans go to the 2-8 Chicago Bears, the Tennessee Titans are 2-point favorites in this game. I like Tennessee minus 2 and Tennessee straight up. And the next game, when the 2-8 Jacksonville Jaguars go to the 5-5 Buffalo Bills, the Buffalo Bills are 7-point favorites in this game. I like Buffalo minus 7 and Buffalo straight up. And in the next game, when the 3-6-1 Cincinnati Bengals go to the 5-5 Baltimore Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens are 3.5-point favorites in this game. I like Baltimore minus 3.5 and Baltimore straight up. And in the next game, when the 4-5-1 Arizona Cardinals go to the 6-4 Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Falcons are 4-point favorites in this game. I like Atlanta minus 4 and Atlanta straight up. And then the next game, when the 7-3 New York Giants go to the 0-11 Cleveland Browns, the New York Giants are 7-point favorites in this game, and I like the New York Giants minus 7 and the New York Giants straight up. And in the next game, when the 4-6 LA Rams go to the 4-6 New Orleans Saints, the New Orleans Saints are 7-point favorites in this game. So I like the New Orleans Saints minus 7 in New Orleans straight up. And then the next game, when the 1-9 San Francisco 49ers go to the 6-4 Miami Dolphins, the Miami Dolphins are 7.5-point favorites in this game. I like Miami minus 7.5 and Miami straight up. And then the next game, when the 4-6 San Diego Chargers go to the 7-3 or 6-4 Houston Texans, this game is a pick'em, and I'm going to take the Houston Texans in a pick'em situation. and Houston straight up. And in the next game, when the 7-2-1 Seattle Seahawks, the 6-2-1. No, I'm sorry, the 7-2-1 Seattle Seahawks. Got it right the first time. When the 7-2-1 Seattle Seahawks go to the 5-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Seattle Seahawks are 5-point favorites in this game. I like Seattle -5 and Seattle straight up. And in the next game, when the 4-6 Carolina Panthers go to the 8-2 or 7-3 Oakland Raiders, the Oakland Raiders are 4-point favorites in this game. I like Oakland -4 and Oakland straight up. And in the next game, when the 8-2 New England Patriots go to the 3-7 New York Jets, the New England Patriots are 8.5-point favorites in this game. I like New England -8.5 and New England straight up. And then the Sunday night game, when the 7-3 Kansas City Chiefs go to the 7-3 Denver Broncos, the Denver Broncos are 3.5-point favorites in this game. I like Denver -3.5 and Denver straight up. And then for the Monday night game, when the 5-5 Philadelphia Eagles, when the 4-6 Green Bay Packers go to the 5-5 Philadelphia Eagles are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Philadelphia -3 and Philadelphia straight up. All right, so time for my thoughts on each game. Vikings at the Lions. This is a extremely important game for the NFC North because first place in the division is on the line. I want to congratulate the Minnesota Vikings. They snapped their 4-game losing streak overall to the Arizona Cardinals yesterday in a very sloppy game for both offenses. I think Bradford only threw for about 160 yards and a touchdown. They only ran for about 40 yards, their leading rusher was. But kudos for getting a win, and here's how bad they were offensively. Minnesota only gained 217 yards of total offense. They are 2-0 this year when they've gained under 220 yards of offense. The rest of the league in that situation, 0-10. And the biggest reason why Minnesota won that game was because of their defense. I would congratulate Xavier Rhodes for earning the longest pick six in Vikings history for 100 yards, making Carson Palmer the first quarterback since Kurt Warner to throw a 100-plus yard interception return in Cardinals franchise history. And he broke the record. I know the record was 91 yards, and I forget the individual that had that record, but congrats for Xavier Rhodes for achieving that record. And I also want to congratulate Cordell Patterson, who had his 5th return touchdown for his career. That's tying him for the most in franchise history with his teammate, the punt returner Marcus Sherrills. And one thing, though, that I noticed, and this is kind of a quick aside, the NFL, there were 12 missed extra points yesterday, and there was actually another one on Thursday. So this has been the most missed extra points in NFL history if you combine most in one day with 12, and you've had 13 overall, and we still have tonight's game with Houston and Oakland. So I think it's been a great thing because now the extra point, I know it's pretty much still a chip shot, but it's nowhere near as certain, which makes games a lot more entertaining. So, and also maybe it's also a sad point of just kicking, but also if you just have to look at how the weather was, there was a massive cold front coming through the East Coast, through Ohio and New York, and if you watch a majority of the games, those are where the kicks were mostly getting missed. The ones in the dome were pretty inexplainable, and the one in with Kostowski, that was a bit surprising too. But all the other ones are either blocked or missed. So, but still, 12 is an insane outlier for the year. But Minnesota themselves, they've missed 5 PATs. That's the most in the NFL. And that was even with their new kicker, Kai Forbath, after the Blair Witch Project, Blair Walsh, finally got cut. But they're playing a Detroit team that is one word, resilient. Detroit's the first team in NFL history to trail in all 10 of their games in the fourth quarter, and they've had the most fourth quarter comebacks in that span with 6. So, but one of the biggest problems of Detroit, though, they could not run the ball. They only had 3 yards rushing in the first half, and they had 14 total rushing yards for the entire game. So, fortunately for the Lions, the Vikings really don't have that much of a running game either, so that's kind of cancels each other out. But I'm taking Detroit here just because Minnesota got very fortunate, and they got very fortunate and made 2 big plays in which the Lions haven't had all year. The Vikings got a pick 6 and a kick return touchdown, and the Lions haven't given up either of those. And when you look at how the game is, it's on Thanksgiving. The Lions have won 3 straight games on Thanksgiving, And in those games, Matthew Stafford, he's been playing sensational. 70.3% completion percentage, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, during those last 3 games, 2 of which were against his other NFC North teams in the Bears and the Packers. And Stafford this year's only thrown 5 interceptions, where Palmer, he's thrown about 10. So Matthew Stafford doesn't turn the ball over as often, and so those opportunities to get the turnover touchdowns or special teams touchdowns won't be as frequent, and that's really going to be, to me, the difference of the game. And I think with Detroit's defense, Darius Slay, good for him. I think he got another interception, which he returned for a pick 6, which was the difference in the game. So kudos to him. But I'm taking Detroit here just because I think Minnesota, they took advantage of the opportunities. But what we've seen out of Arizona is they play a lot more sloppy than what I've seen out of the Lions. I don't know which Lions team you're going to get. And again, the Vikings easily could get the lead in the fourth quarter. Or, what the stat would tell you, they will get the lead in the fourth quarter. But this Detroit team, they've proven that they're used to the situation, and more times than not, they can pull themselves out of it. It should be a great game because you got two, you have a very solid defense against a very solid offense, and it's going to be the differences in those 2 areas where they're lacking. Also, I want to congratulate Eric Ebron, became the 3rd tight end this year with a rushing touchdown, so good for him, joining Kobe Fleener and Rhett Ellison. But I'm taking Detroit because I trust their offense a lot more. They're not going to turn the ball over as often. Their special teams, I don't think, will give up those kind of touchdowns the Vikings need to win. And I just think, again, it's a short week. Detroit has momentum. Detroit has confidence. And Detroit's used to battling adversity. Minnesota, for the most part, when they're down by at least 10 or more points this year, especially during the last several weeks, they've proven they can't overcome that more often than not. So that's why I like Detroit minus 2.5 and Detroit straight up. Next game, Cowboys over Redskins. Wow. Dak Prescott continues to roll. Dak Prescott became the first rookie QB to have consecutive 300-plus yard passing games and multiple TD games with no interceptions. I also want to congratulate Dak Prescott. He also became he became the 46th quarterback to play the number 1 defense as a rookie. But he became the first quarterback to throw for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns on said number 1 defense, which unfortunately for me was my Baltimore Ravens. But we have a bunch of other problems instead of facing Dallas. And Ezekiel Elliott, kudos to him. He has surpassed Tony Dorsett for the most rookie rushing yards for a Cowboys rookie running back in franchise history. The record was 1,102 yards. Ezekiel Elliott has 1,107 yards, and there are still 6 games to go. And also, they beat Baltimore for the first time in franchise history. They were 0-4 entering yesterday. And also, they've won 9 straight games for the first time in franchise history. And fun fact here, 50% of the teams that have started 9-1 or better, which I believe is 33. Yeah, it's 33 out of the 66 teams that have done it. They have made the Super Bowl. So, Cowboy fans, you can say this with pride, and a lot of people, will probably buy into it or say you are one of the couple teams that are a legitimate Super Bowl contending team. They do it because they control the clock. They're the most consistent team in the NFC. They are the Patriots of the AFC. I'm not saying they have the same exact numbers, but every single week that you see the Dallas Cowboys play, I see the same exact thing. Just like the Patriots most of the time, I see the same exact thing. And that's what determines what Super Bowl champions are, that it doesn't matter who you're playing. It doesn't matter what you have. If you can play about the same level every single week, you will win more often than not. So, and also Des Bryant, he caught 2 more touchdowns yesterday, which puts him at 64, and since 2010, he is second with that amount with receiving touchdowns at 64. The only guy that has more is Rob Gronkowski with 68. They are playing a very hot Washington team, though, so this game is going to be fun to watch, and could be a turning point for both seasons, just with how the rest of the schedule is and just how Dallas is, because momentum, as soon as one thing stops, it can possibly all go south from there. But Washington, out of their last 8 games, they are 6-1-1 in their last 8 games, and they still lead the league with the fewest 3-and-outs, which I got it up to now. It's 13. I also want to congratulate Kirk Cousins that he has had, through his sample of 35 starts, he is 17-17-1, and he has the Washington QB franchise record in terms of yards, touchdowns, and completion percentage through his first 35 starts. I'm not saying he's Theismann or Ripken or, Well, he surpassed Ripken last night, but he's proven to me that he is the franchise quarterback. I'm not saying he's a great one, but he is the quarterback for the Redskins long term. He played sensational against the Packers last night, and he's just put up, showing again that last year's ending was not a fluke, and that's something that he can consistently do. And Dallas, though, has lost 3 of their last 5 Thanksgiving games, so that does help, and I do believe one of them, the last time the Redskins went into Dallas on Thanksgiving, RG3 beat them pretty decisively. However, this is a different Redskins team. I think that the Redskins team they have now is better than what they had a few years ago, and this Cowboy team is significantly better than what they had in 2012. The reason why I'm taking Dallas here is they've proven basically everybody wrong at this point, and it's just an easy pick. You know what you can expect out of the Dallas Cowboys week to week to week now, and the Redskins, you pretty much can expect that same thing. I just think Dallas right now, just efficiently, defensively, they just played a better level consistently than the Washington Redskins. Cousins is 1-3 against the Cowboys all time, even though the last time he went into Jerry World, he did beat them. But that was, again, that was last year. Cowboys were not nearly as good now, back then as they are now. And I'm just taking Dallas because, again, they're also 9-0-1 against the spread this year. So pretty much taking Dallas like New England or Seattle now this year is the safe option. And it's less than 7, so that's I'm going to compound that on top of that. And, again, I think Washington, they played really good football, but Dallas has just played even better at certain levels. They can run the ball better. They can protect Dak Prescott better. Dak Prescott's been more accurate, and he's made less mistakes than Kirk has. And I think the Dallas defense, even though the Redskins maybe have better talent, even though, again, they had Chris Baker go down to an injury and a couple other defensive injuries, I just think Dallas, again, they're at home. It's their place. It's their big stage. They're used to it. Kirk Cousins, this will be, probably one of the biggest stages he's played on a very long time, or, in the regular season. And I just think, again, he'll play good enough, but the Cowboys will just outdo him a little bit more. So that's why I like Dallas, minus 6.5, and Dallas straight up. Pittsburgh over Indy. Congrats to Big Ben. He has the best record against one team ever in NFL history, a minimum of 15 starts. He is now 20-2 against the Browns all time. And actually now he has 10 wins in Cleveland. That ties him for the most wins by a QB for that franchise since 1999. So let's understand that, Cleveland. Big Ben Roethlisberger, a Steeler, has won more games against your team, and he has more wins against you than any Browns quarterback has for you since you have come back in 1999. I digress, but that's just a really kind of sad note of how dominant Ben's been against Cleveland. It's kind of like Brady with Buffalo. We'll put it that way. And also for Pittsburgh, they came alive again. It's not really that impressive because it was Cleveland, by far the worst team in the league. But they did accumulate 8 sacks, which is the most sacks for them since Christmas Eve of 2005, when they also played the Cleveland Browns that night. And also they scored 2 defensive touchdowns for Pittsburgh in the game. If someone can look that up, I'd love to know when the last time they did that, because I couldn't find it. I also want to congratulate James Harrison. He became the all-time Steelers sack leader at age 38 with 77.5 sacks. He has been one of the most consistent, one of the great stories of Pittsburgh for all these years, and 38 to, be able to achieve that record. It's a tremendous credit to him. Kudos to him, and congrats for, a sensational career. And I do think he is a Ring of Honor recipient, later down the road. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, but definitely a Ring of Honor recipient. And also, I'm going to congratulate Le'Veon Bell. They got back to running the football. 146 yards on the ground for him. That's a season high. Ben didn't throw a touchdown. He only threw for 137 yards. But when your defense is playing that well and the running game is playing that well, you don't really have to do that much. And also for Indy, they're now 5-5. They've won, 2 games that nobody expected to win. Except I should have gone with the numbers and I should have taken Indy. Here's why. Indy's now won 11 straight games against the Titans, and Andrew Luck now is a perfect 9-0 against the Titans in his career. And for the Colts themselves, they've won 15 of the last 16, going back even further than that. So if there was one team that the Titans have proven they cannot beat over the last several years, it's the Indianapolis Colts. And by years, I mean almost a couple decades now. And when you look at how the Colts are, look, their defense has played very well. The Titans' offense, since about, I think, like week 5, is averaging about over 30 points a game. They held them to, I think it was, 20 or it was 24-17. So, yeah, they held them to well below their average from what they had. And also, I think they got a season high in sacks with 5. So, kudos to them there. And again, like I said, the Colts have scored the 7 most points in the league per average, and they're 14th in yards per game. And Pittsburgh is 15th in terms of points and 12th in terms of yards on offense themselves. And this game is going to be a shootout because you are playing. These two defenses are. Indy is the worst pass defense in the league, and Pittsburgh is 26th in terms of pass yards per game. So this is going to be a fireworks show because both defenses really can't stop anybody. But I just think the biggest difference for me is, look, Pittsburgh, over the last couple of weeks, have been able to find their running game. And I just think, again, they have better offensive line talent. And I think with that being said, I think Pittsburgh, having the motivation of, the Cleveland game, just gain a little bit of confidence. I'm thinking they're going to be able to take some of that momentum and place it into the game against the Indianapolis Colts and get more pressure on Andrew Luck. To cause him to get hit more and to make more mistakes. And also just by the numbers, Pittsburgh's offensive line has done much better than Indy's has. Andrew Luck's been sacked 35 times, which is the most in the league. Big Ben's been sacked compared to that 14. So I think he'll have more time to throw. He has better weapons to go against this, the worst pass defense in the league. And I think they'll be able to outshoot the Colts. Again, would I be surprised if Indy wins this game? A little bit, but not really, because again, Andrew Luck, he's played two very good games so far, and he's had a great year overall. And I think this Indy team, with how Andrew Luck can play, they can shoot, they can go in a shootout with Pittsburgh. I just think at the end of the day, Pittsburgh will just put up 1 or 2 more points, or I guess let me phrase, against the spread, they will put up about a touchdown or a field goal more than Indy will. I think Pitt will have the ball last, and they'll be able to score, which will be the difference of the game. So that's all, like Pittsburgh minus 2.5, and Pittsburgh straight up. Next game, Titans and Bears. Congrats to Marcus Mariota for, he has now had his 7th straight game with multiple touchdown passes, and that breaks Warren Moon's record for the longest streak in Oilers/Titans franchise history for that accomplishment. So kudos to Marcus Mariota for that. And also, this was, okay, and I said this in my video last week, and you can play this back if you want to. I said I picked the Titans to win because I did not expect them to turn the ball over, and when they don't turn the ball over, they win. Well, for the first time all year, they didn't turn the ball over, but they lost. It was a close game. Again, I think the Titans' defense just got burned by, the Colts players. Frank Gore had a massive play. Dorsett and Moncrief just kept, gashing them through the secondary. So their defense didn't show up to play, and that was something I was a little bit surprised with. But kudos to Andrew Luck and the Colts for doing that. But when you look at how the Titans are, they're playing a Bears team, which is just by far, if you look at all the numbers and talent, that are just supremely worse. Tennessee's defense, they have the 7th best rushing defense, and they've given up the 8th fewest rushing touchdowns. And with what's happened in Chicago, Alshon Jeffrey has been suspended for the next 3 games because of a PED violation. They just lost Zach Miller, their leading receiver, to a broken foot for the year. Langford and Howard, can do okay together. But their offensive line got banged up because Josh Sitton went down again with another ankle injury. And this Bears offense really can't do anything. They scored 16 points in the third quarter. They broke their average. They averaged about 15.9 points per game. So they're the 23rd ranked defense in points. They're playing the 31st ranked offense. And when, so again, just by that number alone, I'm going to expect that defense to play much better against a hampered Bears team. And I do mean the word, and I want to emphasize that, hampered Bears team of injuries. This is the worst start for Chicago since 2002. And Jay Cutler, he threw his 43rd interception in the fourth quarter, and once again, he blew another game. But, so again, Tennessee and Chicago, this is fairly easy. Even though the Titans, they've had their ups and downs, and they have, some heartbreaking losses, some awkward losses, and some losses that they're, especially they've been in every game and they've had a lot of heartbreaking losses. This Titans team, Joe, has just shown this year they are healthier, they play more efficient, they play better defense. And this Bears team, I just really can't see how they're going to get a passing game going, because if you double team Cameron Meredith, you've won. Because honestly, I could not tell you, okay, maybe Meredith and Royal, but if you have Cameron Meredith and Eddie Royal as your receivers, you're not really going to do anything with that. Even though the Titans have lost 4 or 5 against the Bears, this is one of those games where Tennessee clearly better in every phase of the game, and they're just healthier, and I'm going to take that against a Chicago team that is just kind of putting along to the end. So that's all, like Tennessee -2 and Tennessee straight up. Next game, Bills over Jaguars. This is essentially to me a Tennessee-Chicago type of game. Congrats to Buffalo. They are now 5-5, and actually, this is the 3rd straight year for the Bills. They've had a 5-5 start over the last 2 years. Of course, Rex got them at 8-8, and the year before they finished 9-7. So, and with the Bills' schedule left, you could argue that that's where they're going to end up heading with that. LaShawn McCoy, I wish him luck with his surgery. He had another injury that took him out of another game. This time a dislocated thumb. He is going to have surgery on that thumb, but he should be able to play this game against Jacksonville. I don't think that really should matter. But I digress. But he's been hampered by injuries. He's had his thumb. He's had a hamstring injury that's been bothering him for the last several weeks. And I think he's even had maybe a head issue that's kind of affected him as well. But even when LaShawn McCoy went out of the game, the rookie running back, Jonathan Williams, then Mike Gillislee, and Tyrod Taylor combined to run for 137 yards the rest of the game, which equaled up to a 5.4 yards per carry average. And also for the Bills, Stephen Gilmore had 2 interceptions in the game, and that's the first 2 INT game of his career. And they also had their first defensive takeaways in any type for Buffalo since Week 5. So kudos to them for making defensive plays which were the difference, because the Bills' offense lost some key players too. They lost McCoy, and they lost their wide receiver Robert Woods. They didn't have Sammy Watkins in the game. Charles Clay was basically a non-factor. And the Bills' defense, I think they said up until that last point, they held the Bengals' offense to, I think, about 50 or 60 yards total through the first 5 or 6 drives of the second half. So the Bills' defense really clamped down and shut down the Bengals' offense, who, by the way, didn't have, AJ and Giovanni Bernard, but still, they had their opportunities. I digress. But they're playing a Jacksonville team where Cedric Marks jumped offside with about 2 minutes to go and basically gave Detroit the win. And Blake Bortles, again, he threw his 10th pick six. He's thrown back-to-back pick sixes against the Texans and the Lions, 2 perennial playoff teams. And those are the kind of plays that show that that's why they're Detroit and Houston, and Jacksonville is Jacksonville. And even though the teams have split the last 6 games, I'm going to take Buffalo here, just because this is like Tennessee-Chicago. Buffalo's been up and down. Buffalo's had very good moments. Buffalo's had some pretty rough moments. The key thing, though, is that they are playing a Jacksonville team, which have been basically bad moments the entire year. And even if Buffalo, and I'll go back, even if Buffalo and Tennessee do not play one of their better games this week against these 2 teams, both these teams at their worst should do better than the 2 teams they're playing are right now constructed to do at their best. And that's why I like Buffalo in this game. That's why I like Buffalo in this game. Just because, just like Tennessee, Buffalo, even through their ups and downs, have shown to be a much superior built and superior ran team compared to the Jaguars. So that's why I like Buffalo -7 and Buffalo straight up. Next game, Ravens over Bengals. We lost to the Cowboys for the first time in franchise history, just like we gave the Jets their first win in their last 8 tries against us. So we've had a pretty kind of historically kind of sad year where streaks ended, which we did not, want to end. I want to congratulate Steve Smith. He became the 14th wide receiver to have 1,000 receptions. He has now 1,005 receptions, and he is the first receiver under 6 feet tall to accomplish that feat. So kudos to him. He is a Hall of Fame wide receiver. I don't know if he's in first ballot, but if he's not in the Hall of Fame, I will be very disappointed because I think he's done a tremendous amount of stuff for the Panthers and the Ravens. And is played consistent enough to show that he is a Hall of Fame wide receiver. I already talked about how Dak threw for 300 yards on our number one defense. Elliott they ran for over 100 yards on our number one defense, and we just kept shooting ourselves in the foot. We had 12 penalties for 136 yards. You're not going to win most games. You're probably going to win very few games if you commit that many penalties for that amount of yardage. The only team that I could think could do that was Oakland when they set the NFL record with penalties and still beat the Buccaneers in overtime. And Baltimore is 0-4 against winning teams this year. So, honestly, again, and Joe Flacco said, well, we should have beaten the Cowboys. I hated that he said that because I don't think we were never going... And from what I had seen the whole year, we were not better than Dallas Cowboys, and it wasn't even close. And anybody that thinks, well, we should have beaten them or agreed to that, I'm just going to say now, they're just blindly ignorant to the fact that, even with a couple bad calls, you can say with the illegal contact or, Bryce Butler pushing off of our corner, that really wasn't going to change that much of a difference in this type of game. So kudos to the Cowboys. Mea culpa. Congratulations. You are the best team in the NFC. And for Raven fans out there that are watching my video, just try to hope we can win the North and move on from there. But, see, I guess fortunately for us, we are playing a banged-up Cincinnati team. Cincinnati is 3-6-1. This is their worst start for them since 2010. Andy Dalton has been very pedestrian this year, unlike the previous years where he had all that talent. He's completed 64.7% of his passes, 2,760 yards passing, 11 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And also, A.J. Green went down with a hamstring injury that could sideline him for the remainder of the year. And that's a huge loss because he and Randy Moss are the only wide receivers to have 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons to start their careers. If, at this point, with how the Bengals are, they should just put him on the IR and let him rest. He probably could have become the first guy, or to join Randy as the only receiver to have 6 1,000-yard seasons. And I believe he was only about 20 yards or fewer away from that. And also they lost Giovanni Bernard to a torn ACL. And with that, and Burfict went down, I think the Bengals just have too many offensive injuries to really have any confidence they can do anything offensively. They also haven't beaten anybody good all year. And we're motivated because the Bengals have won 5 straight games against us. Last time we beat them was like week 11 or week 12 of 2013. They've swept us the last 2 years, and so I think this Ravens team, as bad as we look, or as competitive as we are, we should be able to beat a reeling Bengal team that does not have A.J. Green, so he can't pull off his yearly amazing play against us. They don't have Giovanni Bernard. We can stuff their run pretty well, and I don't think Andy Dalton can make enough throws with the weapons he has. But essentially, what we have to do is double team Eifert, and I'll trust my luck with Tyler Boyd and whoever else they have at receiver, or Tyler Boyd and Brandon LaFell at wide receiver. I'll trust my one-on-one matchups with that compared to facing A.J. Green with those other guys. So, again, it's not going to be an impressive game. It's not really a game that's going to put, people in, elevate our status. All it's going to do is help us keep our lead with Pittsburgh still by the division tiebreaker. But I do think Baltimore wins this game because we're not as banged up as the Bengals, and the Bengals just right now are not themselves, and they're regretting losing guys like Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu on that receiving core to help them out. So that's like Baltimore minus 3.5, and Baltimore straight up. Next game, Falcons over Cardinals. David Johnson, I do congratulate him. He became the third running back in NFL history to have the first 10 games of the season to have 100-plus yards from scrimmage, joining Edgerrin James and Larry Brown. And also, he's the third running back in the last decade to have 10 consecutive 100-plus yard scrimmage games overall, or at any time, joining Chris Johnson and Adrian Peterson. This is the worst start for Arizona since 2011. And the problem with Arizona, I'll say it again, I think I've said it in my previous videos, they are the enigma team. Because if you look at some of their team stats, they're 10th in points, 9th in yards on offense. They have the number 1 pass defense, they have the number 10 rushing defense, and they're 6th in yards per rushing attempt. But this team is it's ranked 20th in points per game, And I think one of the biggest problems is Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer now has had 3 games where he's thrown 2 or more interceptions. All of last year, he only had 2. And Palmer just looked confused. He looked lost. He got sacked 4 times. And just on those last few plays, he just seemed like he couldn't, he didn't know what was going on. And that was the difference. And also, again, he threw the 100-yard pick 6, which is always a problem when that happens. So, again, this Arizona team, it's not nearly as good as I thought it would be. And I think, again, Arians is going to be safe, but there's going to be a lot of, digging around, maybe especially at the quarterback position, to say, hey, we might need to move on from Carson Palmer, or we'll need to find somebody to replace Carson Palmer sooner than later. But they are playing an Atlanta team that is coming off the bye, and that is the best offense in the league. Atlanta is the number 1 offense in terms of points per game, 3rd in yards per game, and they have the 12th best rushing offense in yards per game. But kind of like with Oakland, Atlanta has the defensive problems like Oakland. Their defense is their defense is ranked 29th in points per game and 28th in yards per game. So I think the Cardinals, they can move the ball extremely well with the talent they have on this Falcons defense. However, from what I've seen out of the Cardinals, I just can't trust them anymore. I've taken the Cardinals every single week, this year, and they have either let me down or bitten me, they either let me down in close games or just, disappointed me enough that I have to say with this game against Atlanta, who is a better team than Arizona, they should lose it. They should lose a game finally that I pick against them. Watch, they'll probably win, so I'm like, I should still keep picking Arizona. And also I have a bit of precedent here. The last time these two teams played, Julio Jones ate Patrick Peterson for lunch. He ended up with the game having 10 receptions for 189 yards and a touchdown. Do I think that Patrick Peterson is motivated from that? Absolutely. And do I think that Julio Jones will go off for that type of performance again? No. But I do think that he can make that kind of impact on that performance. And with kind of how Tyrann Mathieu is, his shoulder is still banged up. And I just, I don't know if he's going to play. And if he doesn't, I just think that Atlanta offense, even with Jacob Tamme being out, they have Austin Hooper and Tololio at tight end, which can be effective. And I just think Atlanta, they're rested, they're motivated, and they know they have to beat a Cardinal team at this point that you don't know who you're going to get. Do I think Arizona will give Atlanta a fight? Absolutely. They have an offense that can match them at any point if they're on fire. But with how erratic they've been, I can't trust them week to week. Where with Atlanta, most of the time this year, I know one thing. In that dome, they can put up points. And going into this past week, besides Philadelphia, the lowest amount of points they put up was 24. I think if Arizona puts up 24, I think Atlanta can put up 27 or more. So, and also Atlanta's won 3 of the last 4 against Arizona. But so with all those things being said, that's why I like Atlanta -4 and Atlanta straight up. Next game, Giants over Browns. Robbie Gould, the new Giants kicker, replaced the Josh Brown. Robbie Gould missed 2 PATs for the first time in his career, but again, I really don't blame him because the wins were ridiculous from the cold front I mentioned earlier. And the Giants, and here's the thing, anybody can tell me the Giants are overrated, they're lucky, they're getting by the skin of their teeth, which again, by the number, they are. Because their 7 wins this year have come by a grand total of 27 points. So that's about 4 points, a little bit under 4 points per game they're winning games by. But at the end of the day, if you win the games, that's what matters. So what that tells you is if the Giants get a lead in the fourth quarter, they have proven that they can close games they can close games. And the difference in a very good team and a playoff team compared to a not playoff team is the fact that you can close very close games. And that's what the Giants have proven with their 7 wins. And also they've won 5 straight games for the first time. Since they've won 5 straight games for the first time since 2010. Cleveland, it's their first 0-11 start. They also have the longest active losing streak in the NFL. They have lost 14 straight games. They are only 3 games away from surpassing Oakland for the longest losing streak since passing that, when the Raiders lost 16 straight games from 2013 to 2014. And again, so Browns fans, I think you'll be able to win by next year. And again, the record's still 26. So I think you should be able to, depending on what you get to pick, you should be able to, not get past the Bucs or not have to go to the Bucs level. But I think against the Giants team, you're just too overmatched. And also, it's also another sad day. Cleveland, for the first time in their franchise history, they are now below 500. All through Cleveland's franchise history, they had never been they had always been 500 or better. Now officially they are a below 500 franchise. And maybe for a lot of fans that like to poke at Cleveland, finally this is the point where now even their overall record has suffered from the going on 2 decades worth of suffering the Browns have had since 1999. But also, the Browns, they've only had 3 offensive touchdowns in their last 3 games. It's not really their fault, They don't really have any talent. Kessler got another concussion. McCown is old. And at this point, the Browns are just kind of, hoping that they can win one game that bring a smile on Cleveland's faces. Even though, again, the Cleveland does have the Cavs and the Indians, which is something to look forward to. But this game against the Giants, you shouldn't, because the Giants can make it a close game, but the Giants will close out the Browns like they have their other 6 wins. So that's why I like the Giants -7 and the Giants straight up. Dolphins over Niners. Saints over Rams. I'll get to the Dolphins over Niners in a second. Todd Gurley, he had his first run of over 20-plus yards against the Dolphins for his second touchdown, and the first 20-plus yard run of the season for him. Jared Goff, 17 of 31, 134 yards, no TDs, no interceptions. He tried his best. The defense has collapsed horribly. They had the lead for... I have right here. LA held the lead for 98.7% of the game until about 36 seconds left when Tannehill put up his second touchdown. So that's a horrible indictment on the Rams defense and that Rams team, that they could not hold a lead, or they had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, and it wasn't until about 36 seconds left they gave up 2 touchdowns after they had the Dolphins punt the most times in a single game during the NFL this year in 10. Also, Jeff Fisher is now in infamy. He has now tied Tom Landry for the second most losses in a career in NFL history, with 162, and I think he only needs 4 more losses, which I do think he will get, to become the all-time losingest coach in NFL history. The anti-Shula, if you will. And for Jared Goff, it's not that much of a surprise. The last 10 number 1 overall quarterbacks that have started have gone 0-10 in their debut starts. I don't think many of them won their second start either. So we'll have to see. I think the last one to win his second start was Luck when he beat the Vikings. But the LA offense still has been pathetic. 3 offensive touchdowns in the last 4 games for the Rams. And they're playing a New Orleans team that has a Baltimore type of close ability of bad luck. The Saints now have 5 losses by 6 points or less this year. Will Lutz had a second straight game with field goal or PAT blocked. And the New Orleans defense, you know what? They've done much better than anybody thought. Again, they only gave up 23 to Carolina. They gave up 25 to Denver. They gave up another 23 against San Francisco. They gave up 20 against Seattle. So their defense is playing better. And their defense is 10th in passing touchdowns allowed and 10th in terms of rushing yards per attempt. And the New Orleans defense held the Panthers' offense to a grand total of 82 yards in the second half. And they had a 17-point run. Or, I'm sorry, 17-point run in that second half. So, and even though the Saints and the Rams have put the last 4 games, I'm not trusting Jared Goff for a second start. And the Saints just have shown that they can score offensively and their defense can do well enough that the Rams can't do anything. And I think the Saints will win just because of that. So, that's like New Orleans -7 and New Orleans straight up. Dolphins over Niners. Worst start for the Niners since 2004. And they have the worst defense in points per game and yards per game. Kaepernick has been an absolute disaster, even though I feel bad for him because the defense can't stop anything, and he can't do great from behind. He's completed 53.7% of his passes, 1,144 yards, 7 TDs, and 2 interceptions. And also for Miami, like I just said, they punted 10 times, which is the most in a single game this year. But again, they found a way to win. Ryan Tannehill, another great game. 5 straight consecutive games in a row. He's played pretty well, even though he did throw a pick for the first time since week 5. But now Miami has their they have 4 fourth quarter comeback wins when they were trailing. That's the first time in franchise history they've been able to do that. And I think it might be also 4 straight games where they've trailed in the fourth quarter and they came back to win those games as well. So kudos to them for that. And the Dolphins are trying to win 6 straight games for the first time since 2005 when they went from 3-7 to 9-7 to end the year. And again, I'm taking the Dolphins here. This is fairly simple. The Dolphins are on a roll, and against a Niner team, which is the second worst team in the league by record and just by metric, I'm not going to go against this Dolphin team. This Dolphin team has played consistent enough. They have shown a lot of grit, a lot of toughness, and a lot of resiliency over the last 5 weeks to win these type of games. And this Niner team is just another type of team that if Miami plays the brand of football they have been playing over the last, going on 6 weeks, they can get another win to improve to 7-4, which is something I did not expect after they started out 1-4 through week 5. So that's why I like Miami minus 7.5 and Miami straight up. Houston over San Diego. This was the weirdest pick for me because I have not that much confidence in Houston, but I'm going to take Houston here. It's like a 50.1 compared to 49.9 thing for me with Houston. It's because of these couple reasons. Houston 5-0 at home, 1-3 on the road. So they obviously have played much better at home. They're 12th in points per game, 4th in yards, 3rd fewest passing yards, and 3rd fewest passing TDs. That's their defensive statistics pretty much, or some of the key ones. And I think that if Houston can do that, Phillip Rivers, the offensive line has been banged up, and he showed last week that against a solid passing defense, he can have a lot of mistakes, which were killer. Do I think that he'll throw 4 interceptions against the Texans? No. But do I think he can throw 1 or 2, which could be the difference of the game? Yes, I do. San Diego has the 18th best rushing yards per game on offense and the 12th most rushing touchdowns. And I'll say that Houston's weakness is their run defense. So if San Diego can, just pound the ball really well and Melvin Gordon can go off, which with how he's been, he's my comeback player of the year. He's 3rd in the league in rushing, 3rd most rushing touchdowns, and 4th most rushing yards in the league. That's Melvin Gordon's statistics right now. I think, San Diego has a chance to win. However, I just think, again, Houston's at home. They have proven they've beaten Detroit. They've beaten Kansas City at home. And with San Diego, I just don't know how, after a week, I know they're going to have an extra week, and I know San Diego, just on its face value, has played more consistent football and has not looked nearly as bad as Houston has in some points of the year. But I just think, again, Houston, if they can, put a good game against Oakland, San Diego doesn't have Oakland's offensive line. San Diego doesn't have the wide receivers. San Diego has the better running back, but they don't have the defensive talent either of what they've been going through. So again, I think this game, it'll be extremely close, and I would not be surprised at all. I just think, again, Houston being at home, that's the biggest difference for me for taking them to win this game. And they need another type of, kind of signature win. I know San Diego's 4-6, but to beat a good 4-6 team, need something to quell the flames of, you can beat a bunch of pretenders, but you can't beat anybody good. And I think San Diego, they're a better 4-6 team than their record indicates. But I think Houston, with their momentum, and just how San Diego is, I just think San Diego's lost a good amount of confidence going into this game. They're not really playing for anything right now anyway, and I think they're going to put up a fight, but at the end of the day, they're just going to fall flat at the end if they are down. And that's what I'm home for, and that's what I'm taking Houston to win. That's like the Houston Texans against the spread and straight up. Next game, Seahawks over Tampa. Seattle's now won 3 straight games, and Wilson's become the first Seahawks quarterback to catch a touchdown in franchise history. That was a decent throw by Doug Baldwin and an even better catch by Russell Wilson. I want to congratulate CJ Prosise. He had the longest touchdown run in CenturyLink Field's existence with 72 yards. And here was the amazing thing about the Seattle defense and Russell Wilson. This is an actual stat. Through the first 3 quarters of that game, Russell Wilson and the Philadelphia Eagle wide receiving corps as a whole had the same amount of receiving yards. 15. Russell Wilson also, at this time of year, he is the best quarterback in the league. And I have an actual number to that supports me on that. Since he has come in the league, he is 31-6 from November and later on in the regular season. That's the best record out there. They are playing a Tampa team. They got a signature win over a hot Chief team. They were able to get the Chiefs to make 1 or 2 mistakes, and with the Chiefs, that's all it takes. Congrats to Chris Conley for getting a second pick in back-to-back games for him. I think that's a first in his career. And Jameis Winston, 26 straight games accounting for a touchdown. And if you add his college career, he's actually now up to 53 straight games where he's accounted for a touchdown. And also I want to congratulate the Bucs. They snapped a 10-game home winning streak for the Chiefs. So for them, this is kind of their statement win. And Tampa right now at 5-5. Remember, look, they have wins over Atlanta. They beat Carolina. They, they just beat Kansas City. They looked pretty competitive against Denver. They almost could have beat Oakland. So this Tampa team at 5-5, it's not the most impressive 5-5, but it's no slouch 5-5 either. They're still in the wild card race and still possibly in contention for that division. And also, I want to congratulate the Bucs rushing attack. They had 116 yards on 34 carries. I know that's not much, but still, if you can run the ball pretty effectively against this Chiefs defense, that's a positive spin in the right direction. And Tampa Bay, even though they won 3 of the last 4 games against Seattle, and I know Procise is down, Earl Thomas has a hamstring injury that could sideline him for a couple weeks. I just think, again, Seattle, Russell Wilson's back to form, and Tampa Bay, they are not playing an offense at Kansas City, which if you throw over 10 yards, they're not going to do that. And I love Alex Smith, but that's kind of the way with him, that if he gets over 10 yards, he's nowhere near as good in terms of throwing. Russell Wilson is a extremely accurate deep ball thrower. He provides much more of a challenge. He will take more chances. And I think the Seahawks, again, they're going out on the East Coast, and they've had some rough stretches. Again, they went out to, I think they are 1-2 on the East Coast, or they beat the Jets, they beat the Pats, and they lost. They're 2-1 on the East Coast. And I think, again, Tampa, they're going to put up a fight, and I think their tight end could have a big game, especially with Earl not being there. But Seattle's just too good, like I said, with Dallas or New England. That's just one of those things that just takes Seattle to win. I think 5 points, it's not that hard to imagine they can win by 5 points or more against the Tampa team. And I just think Seattle's more prepared and more consistent, and they're just a better overall talented team. I'm going to go with that to beat the Bucs. That's all, like Seattle -5 and straight up. Next game, Raiders over Panthers. Oakland is dead last in the league with sacks with 13. That is amazing with the talent they have, that they cannot get that much more pressure. And for them, again, this is the big night tonight. They're playing the Texans. They should be able to win that game and get to 8-2. And Oakland, again, their offense is their strength. Their defense is not. They're 25th in rushing yards, second most also yards per attempt on rush for the Raiders. But I think here is the biggest difference in why I'm taking the Raiders to win this game. It is the fourth quarter. Oakland has scored 90 points in the fourth quarter this year. Carolina has given up 117 points in the fourth quarter. And they've given up, I think, 34 in the last 2 weeks, 31 or 34 in the last 2 weeks. So even if Carolina can, Cam can have a good game. Cam can, with the weapons that he has, he can, make the Raiders secondary sweat or make it a shootout. I just don't think this Panthers defense in the end, they have shown that they can't play consistently, as soundly, and as smoothly as they did last year, and they're more prone to giving up leads. And I think Oakland has an offense which absolutely can do that. And even though the Panthers and Raiders have split the last 4 games against them, I just think, again, the Oakland team, they're younger, they've been more efficient, they have a much better offensive line than the Panthers, and I think, again, even if the Panthers can expose the Raiders' defense, the Panthers' defense has been more exposed than the Raiders' defense, and I think Derek Carr, with that talent and with his team, can outshoot them in a home game. Even though, again, it's much harder for the Raiders at home than on the road. And maybe they wish they were in Carolina because they're undefeated going over to the East Coast. I think they are 4-0. Yeah, they're 5-0 on the road, but let's see. They went to Tampa, they went to New Orleans, they went to Baltimore, and they went to Jackson. So they're 4-0 on the East Coast. But I'm going to take the Raiders here because I trust them to have more of a complete team, and also they can score on the fourth. Carolina gives up more on the fourth. I'll take that as an advantage. That's why I like the Raiders -4 and straight up. Patriots over Jets. Congrats to Brady. 199 career wins. Only one away from 200, which will tie him with Peyton Manning for most in NFL history. Also, congratulations to Malcolm Mitchell. 56-yard touchdown pass for his first of the regular season for his career. And LeGarrette Blount, another 124 yards. He's having a sensational year. And with Deion Lewis coming back, he's a little spark plug that's great in spurts for this offense. Even though, again, the problem with the Pats is they cannot cause turnovers. They are 27th in terms of turnovers they have caused. But I'm taking the Patriots here because if Bryce Petty starts, which I think he will, just because, honestly, I don't think Fitzpatrick has done that much, and neither do they really need to see him anymore. Bill Belichick against quarterbacks making their first or second start is 1-8 all time. Brandon Marshall has had a down year, 601 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's really not his fault because his quarterbacks have sucked. The Jets have also thrown the most interceptions in the league, and the Jets have lost 8 of the last 10 against the Pats. And of all that being said, I'm going to go back to my refrain. Dallas, Seattle, New England, pretty much are the teams that you can pick now every week against who they're playing, and pretty much feel like they can win. And it's not a 10-point spread, and I think the Patriots are clearly, with what they have on talent, they don't need Gronk in this game if he doesn't want to play. They're clearly better than the Jets, so that's why I like New England -8.5 in New England straight up. Broncos over Chiefs. This was simple. Denver's won 8 of the last 10 games against Kansas City. Kansas City's too banged up with injuries. If Macklin comes back, hopefully Macklin and Peters can come back. They need to come back to win this game, in my opinion. But also D Ford just went down. And I just think, again, with a hobbled up Peters, a hobbled up Macklin, and now D Ford, they just have not that much talent to go against the Denver team, who should be getting a key to lead back. They're coming off the bye, so they're rested. And again, you have Denver's defense is 9th in terms of points per game and 5th fewest in yards per game. And Kansas City, they are one of the worst offenses on third down. They convert only 40% of their third down tries, which is second to last in the league. And I just think, again, Denver's a rested team. They're going to have their secondary back. In Kansas City's offense, they don't have any big playmakers outside of Macklin. And with no Peters or possibly D Ford, that defense won't nearly be as effective. And I think Trevor Siemian on rest and just knowing that, his defense can carry him, I think he'll be able to do just a little bit more than Alex Smith to win this game, especially with it being at home. So that's all, like Denver -3.5 and Denver straight up. And then finally, Eagles over Packers. Green Bay's given up 30-plus points in 4 of the last 5 games. First time they've done that since 1953. It's also the Packers' worst start since 2006. It's also the first time since his rookie year that Aaron Rodgers has lost 4 straight games. And the biggest difference for me is this game is in Philadelphia. If this game was in Green Bay, I might have been inclined to take the Packers, but it's in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia by far has shown that they are a Jekyll and Hyde team in the link and out of the link. 9.5 points per game average at home, about 26.8 points per game for their defense on the road. And let me rephrase that. Yeah, so they give up 9.5 points per game at home on defense at home, 26.8 points per game on the road, defense on the road. Also, Carson Wentz, 5 TDs, 2 interceptions at home, 6 TDs, 5 interceptions on the road. And I just think, again, Philadelphia at home, Green Bay's defense is pathetic. Kirk Cousins went 15-17 for 175 yards and 3 TDs, and they had 3 50-plus yard plays given up by the Packers defense in 1 quarter. That's way too much for me against this Eagle team, which, even though their offense can struggle, they should be able to win easily by the 3 points and against the spread and straight up. So those are my thoughts and picks for this week. Like, comment, rate, subscribe. Check out the NFL YouTube prognosticators page. And until next time, I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And until next time, so long.